Hey guys, what's up? This is Don and welcome to another After Effects tutorial. And today we are gonna take a look at how to create this fire logo effect. So we're gonna start with a new comp, 1280 by 720, 24 FPS, duration 8 seconds. And I'm gonna call this fire logo 02. And I will hit OK. And I'm gonna drag in our first image. This is this asphalt texture which I found on Google. And this image, along with the rest of the files we are using in this tutorial, will be available for you to download on the post page on the site. So this image has some blue tint on it, like a bluish tone in the color in the shadows. I want to remove that, so if I go to Effect, I can go to Color Correction and Tint, and now it's completely grayscale. One of the things I want to do first is to cut out this this area in the middle where the logo sits in the center off. So if I get the rectangle tool, I can just draw out a square from the middle here, and if I hold Shift and Control whilst I'm dragging out, it draws a perfect square going out in all directions like this. So I'm gonna make it about this size, and I will set the mode of the mask to subtract. I'm going to feather this just to soften up that edge, and I also want to create some sort of tearing and a little bit of cracks around the edge. So I can go to Effect, Stylize and Roughen Edges, and under Edge Type I want to choose Rusty. Let me switch off the mask so we can see the edges better here. I want to set the border size to 10, and the edge sharpness, I will set this to 25. Okay, that is better than what we started off with, but I also want to add this sort of cracks effect, which just recedes into the rest of the texture and kind of fades out. And for this, we are going to use our second image. So this right here, I want to apply a curves effect, and let's just increase the contrast. So draw a curve similar to what I have here, and I'm going to go to the first mask we created and copy this, and then I will paste it onto the cracks layer. Let me open up the mask, and I will set the mode to Add and set the feathering to 100, and I will also just extend the reach of the mask. So under mask expansion, I will set this to 100 as well. Now I need to pre-comp this. Let's call it cracks alpha, and I will move all attributes into a new comp and then hit OK. And then in here I'm gonna create a new solid. Let's make it white and put this below our cracks layer. So when we go back to the main comp and go to the asphalt texture, we can set the track matte mode to be Luma Matte Cracks Alpha, and now you can see these cracks receding and fading out into the texture. Okay, next step, we're going to make the background, this glowing orange cracks behind the number 2. So for this, we need to first of all just create a new solid. Let's call this the BG or background, whatever you prefer. And under color, we'll set this to maybe 50% gray and then hit OK. Let's put this below everything, and then I will pre-comp, and let's call this BG pre, and I will hit OK. And then in here, we want to drag in that same image, or that same comp, the cracks alpha comp, above our gray background. And also, let's bring in our asphalt texture. In fact, we can remove this gray solid. I just needed it to create a new comp. Okay, I'm going to insert a new solid, and this is going to be the color of our cracks. So like a deep dark orange color like this will be fine. And I will hit OK. And OK, let's put this below the cracks alpha and set the track matte to be luma matte inverted this time, because we want the orange glow to show up in the dark areas here. Okay, so this is what it should look like. I'm going to scale down our asphalt. It doesn't matter if it starts to recede from the edges here, as long as it's still within the middle. And you can see that in the main comp here, the cracks with the glow line up perfectly with the cracks we created on the main image, and that's because we've used the same pre-composition. So what we can do to just offset this is to go back into the background layer, and we'll get this comp with the cracks on it, and then just maybe flip it left to right, and maybe move it up slightly. So now when we go back to the main comp, you can see that it's offset, and now it doesn't follow the same pattern as the cracks we have in this layer. Okay, right now the background and the foreground are just sort of melting into each other. We want to separate them. So if we go to the asphalt texture, we can go to layer styles and drop shadow. Let's go into the shadow options, and the opacity, we'll set this to 100. The size is also going to be 100, and the spread is only going to be maybe just 5%. It's quite strong already. And now we can see there's a difference between our foreground and the back element. This has that bluish tint on it, which I forgot to take out. So let's go in here and apply a tint effect onto the cracks, onto the asphalt texture. Okay, back in the main comp, we can create our logo. Now I just type out the number 2, but if you have your own custom logo, you can put this here. Okay, I am going to pre-compose our text, and let's call it logo. And let's go in here. Let's look at our files, and I'm going to drag in that same cracks alpha comp, and I will use it as a luma matte for the logo. So we break the logo apart, and if we go back to the main comp, we can see what's happening. We want to go back here, and let's generate some fill for our letter. You could change the color just in the character settings here, but you can also do it this way. I want to give it like a yellowish tint, an off-white color, and then I will go to layer styles and inner shadow. Let's go in here, and let's make this a deep dark orange, so similar to the color we have for the cracks in the other layer. And let's see, the opacity, this will also be 100%, and the distance may be 0. The size can remain just as 5, but maybe we want to increase the choke to about maybe 5%, and maybe let's bump up that size a bit. Let's make this more orange. So something like this. I am going to duplicate this comp, go to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and then Fast Blur. and I will set the blurriness to 100, and I will also go to Effect, Generate, and Fill, and we want this to be that sort of a orange color again, and I will set the mode, the blending mode of this layer to Add, and this is our glow for the logo. It gives it that fiery look. Okay, let's take a look at our preview, and let's see what we can move on to next. I think these are fire particles, so let's create a new solid. Let's call this fire particles, and I will hit OK. Go to Effect, Trap Code, Particular. Go to the emitter section, and let's see what we have by default. Nothing exceptional. I'm going to set the particles a second to just 50. The velocity, we can leave this at 100, but we want to change the emitter type from point to, let's say, sphere, or maybe even box, and then we can change the emitter size so that the particles are being born in front of the logo here. So something like this. I think we can make this even wider and taller. And we want our particles to fly out toward the right side of the screen. So if I go to particle settings, I can set the let's see. Okay, I'm in the wrong section here. I want to go to the physics section here. Let's go to the air, and under the wind controls, we want to set the X movement to maybe something like 200, the Y movement to maybe half that. We have to make this negative, so minus 100, going sort of up like this, and maybe let's move the particles toward the camera. So wind Z, let's say move this, say minus 100, so that way the particles kind of fly out toward the camera and out in this direction at the same time. Let's go to the turbulence field, and we can affect the position by maybe just 100, just so the particles wave around a small amount as they fly away. Let's set the color to be the same as the brighter section of our logo. So this yellowish tint, let's maybe make it slightly more orange. And if we look back to the example, you can see they look elongated and they have this glow on them. And I actually did this by just enabling the motion blur control. So under the rendering section here, I want to go to motion blur, and let's set this to on, and the shutter angle, we're going to increase this to something quite high. So let's say 850. And you can see as we stretch the particles using motion blur, they lose their opacity. So we want to boost some of that alpha back in using this opacity boost control. Okay, that looks quite good. And then we are going to apply the glow effect. So Effect, Stylize, and Glow. And we're going to choose custom colors. So I want to choose this orange. That looks brown, so let's go in here and just saturate it and make it brighter. Let's choose the same color, but maybe make it slightly more red. And then in the glow colors, let's set this to A and B colors so that it uses the options that we chose down here. I want to dial back the threshold, and I will set the layers blending mode to add. And we can play around with the radius to get something closer to what we are after. we can just cross-check this. I think these particles are more orange in the middle, so let's go back here and let's do that to the color. Let's make the actual particles more orange, so something like this. And I think we can boost the opacity once again. And I think there's actually too many here, so let's go back to particles, the emitter section here, and let's set the particles a second to just 25. Okay, that looks fine. The only problem now is that they just sort of pop into existence. We want to fade them in, and we'll do this using the size of a life control. So let's choose one of the default graphs, say this one, and then let's flip it, and then maybe let's just make it a bit longer on the left side. So now the particles are going to get larger as they get older. Another problem is that at the very beginning there are no particles, but I want there already to be particles when the scene first starts. So if I go back to the emitter section, under emission extras, I can set the pre-run to 100, which means that at frame 0, the emitter would have already done one cycle of particle bursts. So we have something at frame 0, and then they just sort of start to fly out like this. Okay, that looks fine. If we look back at our example once again and maybe get a closer look, you can see we have this sort of heat distortion effect happening. And let me show you how I did this one. So we are going to pre-comp the particles. In fact, you don't want to do that just yet. You want to duplicate this layer, and then let's pre-comp. So let's call this comp displacement map reference, because that's how I did the effect. I used the displacement map effect and used the particles as the map. So if I hit OK, let's go into this layer. We want to increase the size of the particles to say 25, and I'm going to apply a tint so that the particles are completely grayscale. I'll maybe increase the radius of the glow, and I'm also going to distort this layer. If I go to the distort menu right here, I want to choose turbulent displace. I'm going to set the amount to 100 and the size to 25, so they look wavy as they fly out like that. And in the particle settings, I'm going to set the sphere feather to 100, just so they appear a bit softer. I am also going to change the random seed so that my displacement map is not going to have the same path as the fire particles in our main comp, which we are going to jump back into. And let's shut this layer off, create a new adjustment layer, go to Effect, Distort, and you want to use the displacement map effect. And we'll use our particle layer as the reference. And now you're going to see some distortion happening. And this layer will stay above everything, so that the fire particles will distort in the background, and also the logo. You can increase the amount of displacement, so say something like 25 and 25 for a really extreme result. I think that's too much. I'm gonna stay with maybe just 10 and 10, and you get to choose what kind of channels you wanna use for either the horizontal displacement and the vertical displacement. And I mean the normal red and green is fine, but maybe you want to use something like the luminance on both the channels. The result is almost the same. Okay, so this looks quite good. We are now going to add this smoke over here, and for this we are going to use some stock footage. So I have this footage of some smoke. It's a very large piece of stock footage. I think it's 4K resolution, and you know, I shouldn't be really blowing this horn just yet, but Motion Squared is working to bring you guys a 4K stock footage pack. We found a cameraman who has a Red Epic camera, and we're working with him to put together a stock footage pack. So that won't be out for quite a while, but I thought I'd tell you anyway. So sort of maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, you might see this thing drop. Anyway, let me just rotate this. I'm not looking at it. Okay, in this comp. Let's place it over here and set the blending mode to screen. Make sure it's below our displacement layer or above, depending on which kind of look you prefer. I think above will be fine. Okay, the smoke doesn't start to get interesting until much later on. So let me just offset this back in the timeline. So something like this looks fine. You can see we have this really harsh edge. So what I'm going to do is pre-comp this, and let's leave attributes in this main comp. I'll hit OK. Let's jump in here, and if we click on the layer, go get the ellipse tool and double click to insert the mask, full the same size as the frame, and I want to set the feathering to something quite high, so say 100, and I'll also just bring in the expansion, so minus 100, same amount, and maybe I'll feather this even more, so 200. And now if we go back, you can see that harsh edge, it's still there, a small amount, but I'm going to lower the opacity of this layer anyway to something like 30. So you won't see it that much anyway, maybe even more, say 40. And maybe I can scale it down a small amount. Let's position it differently. And now we have some smoke following our particles. Let's set this to the opacity rather to about 50. Okay, that looks great. Can push this back maybe. Okay, so as far as building the scene, we are finished. One extra thing you could do just to give this a bit more life and movement is to create a new null object and then parent everything to the null object, and then use this to sort of do a fake zoom in effect. So not too much movement, just a small amount, just so we constantly have the whole frame just moving. Because if you don't do this, it might feel a bit stagnated, and you don't want that. Stagnated or stagnant? I think it's the other one. Okay, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, and this is going to be our color grading. So if I go to Magic Bullet Looks, I can dive in here. I'm gonna set my zoom to be exactly 100. It looks a bit strange when it's on like 99 or 98, but 100 is what we want. Let's start in the lens section. Let's apply some vignette. We really want to bring more focus to the center here, so I'm gonna really apply this vignette effect quite strong, so something like 80 for the strength, and you can adjust how much you want to darken the edges by using this second smaller circle. You can play around with this as well. That center is not bright enough, so let's go to the spot exposure. Let's really bring it in. Let's maybe increase the stop by maybe 0.5, so the center is going to be really bright, and we can focus this even more just to make it look even hotter. I'm gonna go and get some edge softness, set the blur size to just 1 and the quality to 10, and all of this is just trying to bring more attention to the center of the logo, as well as just creating a more interesting look. I'm gonna go and apply the haze flare effect, just to apply this sort of wispy kind of fill light effect. Let's make it really orange, and let's increase its brightness. I'm gonna increase the spillage as well, increase the softness. I'm gonna lower the reach though, and I will switch off the reflection. So this will just make our scene a little bit more interesting and add some color into some of the dark areas. Okay, that looks fine. Let's go to the post section and do some color correction here. Let's add the color ranges effect. Let's dial in some blue into the shadows here, something like this, and let's maybe darken it. And in the highlights, we can dial in some orange, and also brighten these as well. And in the mids, I don't know what we can do here. Maybe a small amount of green won't hurt us. You know, just trying to get something that looks unique. And that looks quite good. We can see our red is peaking way over 1. So what we can do is go and add in an auto shoulder, and that just suppresses a lot of the colors back to 1 and they get clipped. But you know, that's a really bright look. It really pops out and it doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna hit OK, and this is our final scene finished. One thing I forgot actually, if we go back to the background layer, we want to create an adjustment layer. Go to Effect, Stylize, and Glow. We can lower the threshold, not too much though, and play around with the radius, just so those glowing cracks come out a little bit more. And this is the final look. So thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new in this tutorial. And you know, take this and see what you can come up with. And if you have any questions about anything, not just this tutorial, feel free to message me either on my contact form or Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff.